Hi there, it's Eileen from Learning to the Core. I wanted to share today about close reading with any book from your classroom library, specifically for kindergarten and first grade. So the things to remember when you're doing close reading are there are multiple readings of the text, so the kids are hearing the story multiple times over a few days. Each reading that you do has a specific focus related to the Common Core standards that I'll show you broken down in just a minute. All the readers should really be involved in your discussion. So this is where your students are not just sitting there listening to you talk about the text. It's really them talking to each other, getting involved with it, the discussion, writing things down, coding the text, and really being a part of the entire process so that you know that they're really understanding the story. And that also relates to the last part there. The discussions revolving around the focus should be directly related to evidence from the text. So this way, when kids are answering questions, they're not talking about something that happened to them once. It's really about, okay, what happened in the story? So I'm going to break those down. So the multiple readings of the text, this is, like I said, I do this over 3 days generally. Sometimes it takes longer depending on how the discussions go. The first read on the first day is generally shorter just because this is your a quicker focus. So I include my question for the day, any notes, and which standard I'm addressing. So each reading, as we said, has a different Common Core standard focus. So the first read, you're focusing in on 1 through 3, and this is both for informational and for literature. And that's the key ideas and details. So this is them just really thinking about this text as a whole. So they're listening to the story and just thinking about, okay, what's this story all about? Who's in the story? What's going on? Then the second read, the second day coming back, now we're focusing on craft and structure, which is the standards 4 through 6. And this is really they're identifying those important ideas related to the overall text and how it's written, what illustrations are included. So they're focusing really on the words and phrases within the text. So they're explaining the meaning of words. They're thinking about words that are used to explain how the character is feeling, and really thinking about what type of text it is and what they see in the text. And then the third read, they're digging the deepest of the days, where they're really getting into the integration of knowledge and ideas, so standards 7 through 9. And they're really thinking about those how and why questions, and thinking about how the pictures are helping them, how they would describe different things in the text, and why things are occurring. So each reading, what I do is I have all my little question cards here on little binder rings, and this has made my life so much easier when planning close reading lessons, because I just grab first read, second read, third read, my little binder rings, and I go through and look at a story, read through it, and think about, okay, for the first read, I really want them to focus on this question. Oh, this story has a lot of characters who are different characters are talking throughout the story. So for the second read, I'm going to focus on either who's telling the story most of the time, or what does the other person tell if there's anyone else telling the story. So these really are just kind of a grab and go for me, where I have the book in front of me, I have my question cards, and I have my lesson plan, and then I just write down which question I want to focus on for each read. And these, again, relate directly to each of those set of standards. So making sure that all readers are involved, you want to, I introduced it this way at the beginning of the year, and so my students then know when we're reading and doing our close reading, this is our focus, our general focus each day. So the first read, they know that first day we're really just talking about the text after I introduce it and read it to them. And not a ton of front loading is going on. They're just going through and listening to text, and you really want them to be talking about the text with you in general terms. So then the second read, they know that day they're really talking a little bit more with their partners. They're writing about it, they're coding the text, they've got their tools ready to really dive a little deeper into the text. And then the third day, they know this is our big day for really talking about heavy comprehension questions, and then both talking about it with each other, as a group, with me, and also, again, writing and coding the text. So one other piece of it is coding the text, like I said. So when I have my passages, of course, the kids have their own copy, and they are circling the words that answer their question and underline important evidence. But when I use just books from my library, I use just all sorts of different tools. So I use those little pointers. I use bingo chips because those are see-through, so they can cover up important words. We use the little eyeballs to show which part we're focusing on. And then I have a love-hate relationship with wiki sticks, but my students love them because they're just those fun, sticky little things, and they're perfect for sticking on books as you're going through and identifying important words and phrases from the story. So they can be done in all sorts of ways without actually having kids write on the text. If you do have like an Elmo and you can project your book onto your smartboard, another way would just be to, again, circle those words with the markers and underlining them. So I wanted to provide 2 different examples. So I'm going to start with Six Crows. This is by Leo Leone, and this is actually a fable. So you can use informational text, literature, poems, any type of book really that you have in your classroom library. You just really want it to be something that has some good content and that'll give your kids the chance to really dig deeper. So this was a book that I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to read this with my students. It might be a little challenging. It ended up being perfect for close reading. So the first day, I'm going to tell kids, okay, today I'm going to read Six Crows by Leo Leone, and we're going to talk about first, what is the story all about? So that's standard 1. So this is, again, very simple question. You're going through just reading it, and then just talking about the text as a group so that you have an idea that the kids have an overall understanding of it. Then you come back to day 2, and you might focus specifically on just a few pages. You might read the whole book again. You just really want it to be something meaningful where the kids are still super involved and you're not just providing them the answers. Okay, so today, readers, we're going to read through a little bit of the story again, and we're going to focus on which words show how the characters were feeling. And again, you're going to want to show multiple pages for this one because you want the students to choose which characters they want to talk about, and you want to make sure that you have different feelings occurring. So I'd read through the story again, and then I'd discuss it with the students, our focus for the day. And so we'd, on the whiteboard, put up the crows and the farmer, because those were 2 that they had talked about, and we talked about words that describe them. And then those quotes I include because, remember, we're getting the evidence directly from the text, so that shows that they knew why the crows were scared and why the farmer was frightened. So again, use the little wiki sticks. We circle the word frightened with them and underline huddled in their tree. And then the last step for day 2, their kids are actually using their graphic organizers to write their own responses. So they can choose from our ideas on the board. They might have picked a different character, a different feeling, and then they're just drawing a picture to illustrate it as well. So one picked the word frightened, talking about the crows huddled in the tree, and then another one here talking about the farmer was scared because he didn't want to leave his hut. So again, that's a direct example from the text, so I could tell that they really understood it. And then we'd come back to the group and talk about what words were chosen and which characters were chosen. Then we move on to day 3. Today, readers, we're going to talk about how would you describe the characters using specific examples from the illustrations or the text. So they're going to be listening specifically to a few pages again and focusing on which characters they want to and which illustrations and text they want to focus on. So here's an example of them focusing on the owl. And we talked about how the owl is wise because the owl is telling the crows and the farmers to talk with each other and talk things over. And then the kids, again, do their graphic organizers as well. So this one, the crows are smart. They make a kite. So they figured out how the crows solved a problem in the story. And then, again, there's that wise owl who made the crows talk. So talking about it together as a group, coming back, and talking one more time after the graphic organizers are completed. Okay, so that was one book. Here's another quick book I'm going to show you. So I love this story, The Hello Goodbye Window. It's so cute. Again, so now we're saying, okay, so for our first read, we're talking about what the story is all about. Go ahead, read through the story on the first day, talk about what it's about. They're just discussing it with you and each other. Come back on the second day. Today, readers, we're going to find out who is telling the story most of the time. So there's standard 6 that you're focusing on. And again, I have things where the pointer's pointing to the word Poppy. So we know it's someone talking to Poppy, and then the little bingo chips covering the word I, because we know that the I is referring to someone. So they have to do a little inferring, thinking about who is I. So they might be using the pictures to help figure out and just the overall words in the story. So we got those little eyeballs and the magnifying glass as well if they want to show that we're really focusing on this page. So then they completed, okay, the girl is telling the story. I know this because, so both of them, these students chose to use something that happened in the story as their evidence. So they know that the girl saw the tiger outside, and then they also knew that the girl was talking to Pappy because the girl said, my Pappy plays the harmonica. So they use that as their evidence from the text. And again, these are kindergartners and first graders. You're talking about their answers together, then you're having them go off and do it. And see what answers they come up with when you come back to the group. Last day, so now they're going to be focusing on Standard 7. How would you describe the characters using specific examples from the illustrations or text? So again, we're going to read through a little bit first. We're going to talk about it, do some writing on the whiteboard of words that they came up with that they heard from the story, marking it off with the wiki sticks. So showing an example of how they would describe the characters. So then this one, we've got, she is nice, she sees him in the window, or she is funny, she is ducking under the window. So they both came up with different words and different examples from the text that really support their answers. So that's what you want. You want them to come up with an answer and really have evidence to support it. And that is how you do close reading in kindergarten and first grade with any book from your library. So if you are looking for something to make this a little easier on you, I do have my close reading pack, which includes the lesson plan template, another lesson plan sample for the story fly guy, the different steps of close reading, and those anchor charts so you can use them to introduce close reading to your students. And then also, of course, all those question cards that are separated by first, second, and third read, as well as the graphic organizers that are also separated by first, second, and third read. And I do have graphic organizers and questions included both for informational and literature text, so you can really make sure you're addressing all those standards 1 through 9 for both of those categories. So thanks so much, and I hope you have a great day.